2025 through 2027, the Secretary shall make payments to territories and Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations, with applications submitted as described in subsection A and approved by the Secretary. The territories, Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations shall be entitled to such payments to carry out the activities described in subsection H(2). H. Use of funds. 1. Use of funds for transition years. For each of fiscal years 2022 through 2024, a state that receives a payment under subsection G(1) shall reserve and use a 50% of such payment for activities to I. Expand access to child care assistance for eligible children, with priority for providing access for children in families with incomes less than 85% of the state median income, and 2. Increase child care provider payment rates to support the cost of providing high-quality child care services, including rates sufficient to support increased wages for staff of eligible child care providers. B. 25% of such payment for activities described in subsection B(3). And C. 25% for activities under subparagraph A, or activities under subparagraph B, as determined by the state. 2. Use of funds for fiscal years 2025 through 2027, A. In general, starting on October 1, 2024, a state shall use amounts provided to the state under subsection G(2) for child care services, provided on a sliding fee scale basis, activities to improve the quality and supply of child care services, and state administration. B. Child care assistance for eligible children, I. In general. The state shall ensure that parents of eligible children can access child care services provided by an eligible child care provider through a grant or contract under Clause 2, or a certificate under Clause 3. 2. Grants and contracts. The state shall award grants or contracts to eligible child care providers, consistent with the requirements under this section, for the provision of child care services for eligible children that, at minimum, support providers' operating expenses to meet and sustain health, safety, quality, and wage standards required under this section. 3. Certificates. The state shall issue a child care certificate directly to a child care provider on behalf of a parent who may use such certificate only as payment for child care services or as a deposit for child care services if such a deposit is required of other children being cared for by the provider, consistent with the requirements under this section. C. Activities to improve the quality and supply of child care services. I. Quality child care activities. I. Amount. For each of fiscal years 2025 through 2027, from the total of the annual payments made to the state for a particular fiscal year, the state shall reserve and use a quality child care amount equal to not less than 5% and not more than 10% of the amount made available to the state through such payments for that particular fiscal year, and shall reserve and use a proportional amount from each quarterly payment made to the state for that particular fiscal year. 2. Use of quality child care amount. Each state shall use the quality child care amount described in subclause I to implement activities described in subparagraphs B and C that increase the quality and supply of eligible child care providers, and the number of available slots in the state for child care services funded under this section, prioritizing assistance for child care providers who are in underserved communities and who are providing, or are seeking to provide, child care services for underserved populations identified in subsection F 4H. Three. Administration. Assistance provided under this subparagraph may be administered, a. directly by the lead agency, or b. through other state government agencies, local or regional child care resource and referral organizations, community development financial institutions, other intermediaries with experience supporting child care providers, or other appropriate entities that enter into a contract with the state to provide such assistance. 2. Activities. Activities funded under the quality child care amount described in clause I shall include each of the following: I. Startup grants and supply expansion grants, AA, in general. From a portion of the quality child care amount, a state shall make startup and supply expansion grants to support child care providers who are providing, or seeking to provide, child care services to children receiving assistance under this section, with priority for providers providing or seeking to provide child care in underserved communities and for underserved populations identified in subsection F 4H. To AA, support startup and expansion costs, and BB, assist such providers in meeting health and safety requirements and achieving licensure. BB, requirement. As a condition of receiving a startup or supply expansion grant under this subclause, a child care provider shall commit to meeting the requirements of an eligible provider under this section and providing child care services to children receiving assistance under this section on an ongoing basis. 2. Quality grants. From a portion of the quality child care amount, a state shall provide quality grants to eligible child care providers providing child care services to children receiving assistance under this section to improve the quality of such providers. Including AA, supporting such providers in meeting or making progress toward the requirements for the highest tier of the state's tiered system for measuring the quality of child care providers. Under subsection F 4B and BB, supporting such providers in sustaining child care quality. 3. Facilities grants, AA, in general. From a portion of the quality child care amount, a state shall provide support, including through awarding facilities grants, for remodeling, renovation, or repair of a building or facility to the extent permitted under Section 658F, B, of the Child Care and Development Block Grant Act of 1990, 42 U.S.C. 9858. BB, additional uses. For fiscal years 2022 through 2024, and in subsequent years with approval from the Secretary, a state may provide such facilities grants for construction, permanent improvement, or major renovation of a building or facility primarily used for providing child care services. In accordance with the following, AA, federal interest provisions will not apply to the renovation or rebuilding of privately owned family